everybody, this is Bridge and Balance, and today we're going to be looking at the Hamilton Khaki Field in 38mm in titanium. Now this watch was just released and we're going to be discussing all the exciting updates that Hamilton has put into this watch for 2022. Now, before we get going, a real quick disclaimer: I love field watches, and even more than that, I love Hamilton field watches. And for me, that really comes down to kind of a bit of nostalgia, because years ago, when I was initially getting into this hobby and interested in the world of watches, I really was first drawn to historic military pieces, because as a fan of history, the idea of wearing a piece of that history, or at the very least, something with a similar aesthetic, was really very appealing to me. So when I finally felt that I'd saved enough money, one of the first mechanical watches I ever purchased was a Hamilton Khaki Field mechanical, and now I own several variants of the Khaki Field, and honestly I enjoy each one of them, but I was honestly especially excited about this particular release, which features the titanium case. Now this isn't wholly new, as the Khaki Field in titanium has existed in some form since 2020, but if I'm being completely honest, the 2020 version of the titanium Khaki Fields had some problems. First of all, while the 2020 version had a case size of 42mm, the lug-to-lug size was a whopping 52mm, which really meant that it wore gigantic on the wrist. And I have a rather large wrist at 8 inches, and even for me it was really quite uncomfortable to wear, especially for long periods of time. And to make this issue worse, the PVD black version, which I own, came with a miserably stiff strap, and it just did not work well with my wrist at all. Now, of course, I could throw a NATO strap on this and be on my way, but it is really quite disappointing that the strap that comes with the watch was so uncomfortable. And really, in a strange choice that kind of alienated a lot of fans, Hamilton decided to engrave the word titanium on the side of the watch, just so I guess you never forgot what kind of material the watch was made out of. And for many enthusiasts who really like having a watch without this kind of silly marketing being printed or engraved on the watch itself, this really ended up being kind of a bridge too far. And of course, in the same vein, the 2020 version featured date windows, and date windows are certainly going out of fashion these days. Most enthusiasts really like a dial without a date window, and I'm happy to report that the 2022 release of the titanium Khaki Field is here to fix all these issues. Gone is the engraving on the side, the date window is no longer there. We also have a brand new 38mm case size, which is going to keep this watch manageable on the wrist, and the out-of-the-box strap is really much improved and actually quite comfortable. And so to me, this release is honestly the perfect Khaki Field, especially if you're looking for a titanium variant. So let's really dive into some of the details of this watch and learn more about it. So for 2022, Hamilton has actually released two different sizes for this Khaki Field titanium. The 38mm variant is the one that I have here today, and it has a case size, obviously, of 38mm. As far as thickness goes, it comes in at a svelte 11.8mm, and it has a lug-to-lug of 47mm. Now, as is typical with most Hamilton pieces, the lug-to-lug is quite large. However, for this release, Hamilton did change up the angle of these lugs, and they've reshaped it to prevent those lugs from digging into the wrist. And like I said, I have an 8-inch wrist, and this 38mm version fits and wears really pretty great on me. But this is definitely something you're going to want to keep in mind, especially if you happen to have a smaller wrist. But if you want to go the opposite way and you're interested in the larger case size, there is also a 42mm variant of this watch, which keeps the svelte 11.8mm thickness, and the lug-to-lug on the 42mm version is 52mm. And again, that is quite big, but hopefully those reworked lugs will make this field not quite as large as that 52mm would have you believe. The case is obviously made of titanium, and this release comes in both a brushed finish as well as a PVD black version, so you have several case options to choose from here. And titanium, as I've said in other videos, is really a huge plus for me. Titanium is super light and easy wearing on the wrist. And I know there are some enthusiasts out there who prefer the weight of steel and really want to kind of feel the weight of the watch on the wrist. I am not one of those people. I I really appreciate wearing a lightweight watch, and I love the way that titanium wears and feels. But again, that's kind of my personal opinion. If you're not into titanium, you know, you can get this watch in steel as well. Some of the features of this watch here are 100 meters of water resistance, so that makes this a great piece for daily wear. And inside the watch we have the workhorse H10 movement from Hamilton, which means you get 80 hours power reserve, stop seconds, hand winding. Really, this movement provides excellent value for money, especially when it comes to getting an in-house Swiss movement. One of the things that Hamilton has done really well with their titanium models has been the Lume application, and these 2022 models are no exception, with excellent Lume application on the Arabic indices, as well as a good amount of Lume on the hour and minute hands. So when it comes to nighttime readability, this thing really has it in spades. I think the Lume on this looks fantastic. As far as the strap is concerned, the leather strap that comes out of the box is definitely comfortable. However, I think that this would look absolutely gorgeous on a NATO strap if you wanted to put one on there. Let's take a quick second to appreciate the new dials as well. Hamilton has retained its vinyl record circular motif that is found on other Khaki Field models. And this model that I have has a beautiful green colored dial, although Hamilton has decided for some reason to call it khaki. It also features orange pips that mark each 5-second interval, and the arrow of the second hands also has that bright orange coloration. Now there are other colors in this release as well. If you want the 38mm variant, you can also find it with a black dial. However, if you do want the PVD coated case, you will be forced to get it in this sort of lunar or concrete style dial, which, whether or not you like this thing, is a matter of personal preference. It's not really my style, but if you like it, this could be a great option for you. If you're interested in the larger 42mm version of this watch, that comes in only the khaki, which is the green, or the blue dial variations. There is no PVD option in 42mm, and you can only get this blue dial if you go to the 42mm variant. Alright, so what are my thoughts on this watch? I've been wearing this almost exclusively since I got it 2 weeks ago, and I have to say that I absolutely love it. Everything that I love about field watches and Hamilton itself really is embodied in this watch right here. And if you're a fan of the field watch aesthetic, you certainly cannot go wrong with this watch. Or if you're just looking for something for daily wear, I think this is a great option, especially if you want to get into Swiss-made watches for under $1,000, because as far as pricing goes, the black and green models in 38mm are priced at $895 US. And the 38mm PVD watch is $945 US, which is the same price as well as the 42mm references. Alright everybody, so that is the Hamilton Khaki Field Automatic in Titanium, new for 2022. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you appreciated this video, could you please subscribe to the channel? It really helps us out a lot.